Have you ever noticed how the things you once loved doing don't feel the same anymore? Maybe you used to look forward to going out, sitting with friends, catching up with family, laughing for hours over stories from the past. But then, one day, you wake up and realize that excitement isn't there anymore. You don't rush to put on your shoes. You don't look forward to long drives, crowded rooms, or endless small talk. Instead, you find yourself craving something else, something quieter, something simpler. For many of us after 70, even the simple act of visiting people, something that once felt natural, even joyful, begins to change. And let me tell you, that change is not a bad thing. It's not about bitterness. It's not about loneliness. And it's certainly not about pushing people away. No, it's about something much deeper. It's about peace. It's about wisdom. It's about finally giving yourself permission to protect your time, your health, and your spirit. You see, people often assume that when elders stop visiting, it means they've grown cold, or antisocial, or maybe even sad. But the truth is so much more honest than that. And in this video, I want to take you through 6 powerful, personal reasons why I stopped visiting people after 70, and why I've never once looked back. By the time we reach the end, you might see aging, socializing, and even your own choices in a whole new light. But before we dive in, let me ask you this: do you still enjoy visiting people as much as you once did? Or have your habits shifted with time, just like mine? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and share your experience. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Tips, where every day we share insights to help you age with grace, dignity, and a sense of purpose. Let's get started, because these 6 reasons may just surprise you. I used to enjoy traveling across town to see people. There was a time when I would wake up, get dressed, and look forward to the company of others. The conversations, the laughter, the warmth of being around familiar faces, it gave me joy. But one day, I realized something had shifted. I noticed that after every visit, instead of feeling uplifted, I came home more exhausted than fulfilled. My body would ache, my mind would feel drained, and sometimes it took me the entire next day just to recover from what once felt like a simple outing. That was the moment it hit me: energy is no longer something I can spend carelessly. When you reach a certain age, you learn that stamina is fragile. The body slows down, and even activities that seem ordinary to others, a drive across town, sitting for hours in conversation, or simply being in a noisy environment, can take more out of you than people realize. The truth is, outings that used to feel easy and light now demand a heavier toll. And here's where many people misunderstand. They look at a senior who stops visiting and they say, "Oh, they must be lonely, maybe they're avoiding people." But that's not it at all. It's not about rejecting company or choosing isolation. It's about survival. It's about protecting the little energy we do have and spending it wisely. At this stage of life, every ounce of energy matters. And once it's gone, you can't just bounce back like you used to. So instead of exhausting myself with long visits, I learned to embrace gentler ways of connecting. A short phone call, a warm video chat, or even a heartfelt letter can carry just as much love without leaving me wiped out for days. Because here's the truth: relationships aren't about how far you drive or how many hours you sit in someone's living room. They're about the connection, the love, the thoughtfulness. And you can share all of that without running yourself into the ground. That's why I stopped visiting as often. Not because I love people any less, but because I finally learned to love myself enough to protect my strength. And let me tell you, once I made that choice, I found more peace than I ever imagined. But energy isn't the only reason. There's something even deeper, something that touches the mind and the heart. And that's the need for peace of mind. At 70, I began to notice something I had ignored for years. Small gatherings, the kind that used to be filled with laughter and light, slowly began to feel different. Conversations sometimes turned into debates. Harmless chats slipped into gossip. And before I knew it, I was walking away from visits not feeling happier, but heavier. I remember sitting quietly one evening, thinking to myself, do I really need this? Do I need to carry other people's arguments, other people's noise, and other people's drama into the little piece I've carved out for myself? The answer, my friend, was no. Here's the thing, with age comes a kind of clarity that only time can teach you. You start to realize that mental peace is worth more than all the polite smiles and empty conversations in the world. In your younger years, you might push yourself to attend every gathering, say yes to every invitation, and please everyone around you. But when you get older, you finally see that your mind, your heart, and your spirit deserve protection too. Now, here's where people often misunderstand us. They assume that when an older person stops showing up, it must mean they're lonely, sad, or shutting themselves away. But the truth couldn't be more different. It isn't about loneliness at all, it's about choosing peace over unnecessary conflict. It's about protecting the calm you've worked so hard to find, instead of sacrificing it just to keep up appearances. And here's the advice I wish someone had told me sooner: it is perfectly okay to decline visits that drain you. It is perfectly okay to say no when your heart tells you it's too much. Boundaries aren't selfish. Boundaries are self-care. They're the invisible shield that allows you to keep your peace, your strength, and your dignity intact. You don't owe anyone your energy if it costs you your serenity. That's why protecting my peace became more important than pleasing people. And let me tell you, once I learned that lesson, life became lighter. My days became quieter, but in the most beautiful way. Instead of walking away from gatherings with a heavy heart, I now spend my time with calmness and gratitude. And speaking of self-care, peace of mind is just one part of it. There's another reason why visiting people became so difficult, one that has less to do with the mind, and more to do with the body. And that reason is health. Whether it's aching joints, mobility issues, or the endless list of medical routines, even the smallest trip outside the home can start to feel like a big production after 70. Something as simple as getting dressed, putting on shoes, and climbing into a car can suddenly take twice the energy it used to. And then there's the sitting, the standing, the long conversations, the late hours, it all adds up. What once felt like a pleasant outing can now leave you worn out for days. The truth is, the body simply demands more rest and care as the years go by. You notice it in the way your legs feel heavier, in the way your back protests after sitting too long, or in the way you start measuring time not by hours, but by how much strength you have left. And it's not something you can just push through anymore. The body doesn't bounce back the way it did at 40 or even 60. It needs gentleness, patience, and a slower pace. But here's where families and friends often misread us. They might look at an elder who no longer makes the rounds and say, "Oh, they're just being lazy. They don't want to make the effort." But it isn't laziness at all, it's necessity. It's the body speaking louder than the mind, telling us that rest is no longer optional, it's required. And ignoring those signals isn't bravery, it's risk. So instead of forcing yourself to keep up with exhausting visits, there are other ways to keep love and connection alive. You can invite loved ones to visit you instead, in the comfort of your own home. You can share a warm conversation over the phone, or see their smile through a video call. You can stay connected in ways that honor your body's limits, instead of pushing past them. Because at this stage of life, the goal isn't to do more, it's to do what matters, in ways you can truly handle. Health is a powerful teacher, and it shows us that sometimes less is more. Less movement, less strain, less travel. But more rest, more care, and more time to simply be. But health isn't the only reason visits begin to fade. Beyond the physical body, there's an emotional layer to this change, one that has to do with the relationships we carry, and the ones we choose to let go. Some friendships fade over time. It's a truth many of us don't like to admit, but by the time I reached 70, I realized not every connection needs to be maintained. There were people I had known for years, some since childhood, people I once thought would be in my life forever. But as the years passed, our paths went in different directions. The bond that once held us together wasn't there anymore. And instead of forcing it, I asked myself, why am I holding on? You see, aging shifts your priorities in a way nothing else can. When you're young, it's easy to keep a wide circle, to attend every gathering, to maintain dozens of friendships just for the sake of being surrounded. But when you get older, you start valuing quality over quantity. You begin to see that not every relationship is meant to last a lifetime. Some are seasonal, they serve their purpose, they teach their lessons, and then they quietly fade away. And here's where outsiders often get it wrong. They might look at an elder who no longer calls everyone back, who no longer shows up at every event, and think, they've grown cold. They've pulled away. Maybe they don't care anymore. But the truth is far gentler than that. It isn't about growing cold, it's about growing wise. It's about realizing that life is too short to pour energy into shallow conversations or one-sided relationships. It's about choosing depth over quantity, and meaning over obligation. And that's the advice I wish more people could embrace. It is perfectly fine to let certain relationships fade. It doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you've stopped loving people. It simply means you're creating space for what truly matters, for the people who show up, for the bonds that give you strength, and for the moments that actually fill your heart. When you stop clinging to relationships that no longer serve you, you make room for peace, joy, and deeper love to flow in. And what matters most, when you really look at it, often ties back to family and to time, the two things that feel more precious than ever as the years go by. At this stage of life, every single day feels more precious. I wake up and I no longer think about how busy the day will be, or how many errands I have to run. Instead, I ask myself a much simpler, but far more important question: how do I want to spend these hours? Do I want to spend them sitting in traffic for a visit that leaves me drained? Or do I want to spend them doing something that truly brings me joy? Whether that's sipping tea in the quiet of my garden, reading a good book, or just sitting in silence with my own thoughts. This is the gift and the challenge of aging. It makes you painfully aware that time is not endless. In our younger years, we act as if tomorrow is always guaranteed. We fill our calendars with obligations, we rush from one place to another, and we don't think twice about how much of our time is being spent on things that don't really matter. But once you reach a certain age, you start to see time differently. Every hour feels like a choice, and every choice carries weight. And here's where people often misunderstand. When they see you declining visits, or saying no to social obligations, they may whisper, they've become selfish. But in truth, it isn't selfishness at all, it's living intentionally. It's acknowledging that the hours ahead are fewer than the hours behind, and that how you spend them matters more than ever before. It's not about rejecting others. It's about protecting the most valuable resource you have left, your time. So here's the advice I hold close: choose activities that bring you joy, not guilt. Don't spend your days trying to meet everyone else's expectations. Don't fill your hours with obligations that leave you weary and regretful. Your time belongs to you now, and you've earned the right to spend it however you wish. Whether it's in the company of others, or in the quiet company of yourself, the choice is yours, and that is true freedom. And with that realization comes something even deeper, something that surprised me when I stopped visiting others. Because what I discovered wasn't loneliness at all. It was self-discovery. When I finally stopped visiting so often, I discovered something I never expected. What I found wasn't sadness, or emptiness, or a sense of loss. What I found was silence, and in that silence, I found healing. The quiet moments of sitting with myself, without noise, without obligation, without having to put on a smile for anyone else, those moments became more comforting than any crowded room ever could. Solitude, I realized, is not loneliness. It is something completely different. Loneliness is when you crave company and feel its absence. But solitude, it's when you find peace in your own presence. It's when you give yourself the space to reflect, to remember, to create, to breathe. It's the chance to sit with your thoughts and feel whole without needing anyone else to complete you. So many people fear being alone in old age. They picture it as dark, cold, or empty. But here's the truth that nobody tells you: sometimes, solitude is exactly what keeps you grounded. It's in those quiet hours that you come to know yourself more deeply than ever before. You remember who you are without the noise of others' opinions. You rediscover little joys. Like the smell of the earth after watering your garden, or the peace of a whispered prayer, or the simple rhythm of turning pages in a book. And here's the advice I'd pass along to anyone listening: learn to enjoy your own company. Don't run from it. Sit with it. Read, write, pray, garden, or just watch the sun set without rushing to do anything else. Because sometimes, the most nourishing visit you'll ever have is not with another person, it's with yourself. That's the beauty I never saw coming. In choosing solitude, I didn't lose anything, I gained something priceless. I gained a friendship with myself. Now, these 6 reasons may sound bittersweet to some, maybe even a little heavy. But here's the truth: they are not signs of loss. They are signs of wisdom, of growth, and of learning to live the later chapters of life with peace and intention. Yes, it's true, sometimes it's hard for others to understand why elders stop visiting as much as they once did. From the outside, it can look like rejection, like we've grown distant or uninterested. But the reality is very different. It's not about rejection at all, it's about self-preservation. It's about listening to the body, protecting the mind, and honoring the soul. It's about choosing peace over pressure, and health over obligation. Think about it this way: aging is not an ending, it's a new chapter. And in this chapter, instead of rushing to please everyone else, you finally learn to honor yourself. Instead of fearing these changes, I encourage you to see them as a kind of freedom. Freedom from unnecessary burdens. Freedom from the noise of relationships that no longer bring joy. Freedom to spend your time and energy in ways that actually nourish you. That's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to embrace. And for those of you who have elderly loved ones, I want to encourage you: if you notice them visiting less, don't jump to the conclusion that they're shutting you out. Instead, ask yourself, how can I meet them where they are? Maybe it's a gentle phone call instead of a long drive. Maybe it's stopping by their home for a short, warm visit rather than expecting them to travel. Maybe it's simply sitting with them in silence, showing love not with activity, but with presence. Sometimes the smallest gestures bring the greatest comfort. Because here's the truth: aging is not about losing life. It's about living it more intentionally. Every decision, every boundary, every choice to say no to one thing is really a choice to say yes to something more meaningful. It's about filling your later years not with busyness, but with love, peace, and dignity. So don't fear these changes, and don't pity them either. See them for what they truly are: a wise shift toward living life with purpose. And in that purpose, there is beauty. Let's gently recap the heart of today's message. After 70, the way we connect with people often changes, not out of rejection, but out of wisdom. Energy becomes a precious resource, peace takes priority over pleasing others, health places natural limits on what we can do, relationships shift toward quality over quantity, time feels far too valuable to waste, and solitude itself becomes a gift. These 6 reasons explain, honestly and openly, why I, and many others, choose to visit less. Not because love has faded, but because life has taught us to protect what truly matters. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these reasons resonated most with you? Maybe you've noticed yourself visiting less, or maybe you've seen it in a parent, a grandparent, or a friend. What was their reason? What was yours? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story may help someone else understand their own journey a little better. And if this video gave you clarity, comfort, or even just a moment of peace, I invite you to subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Tips. This is a place where we share insights and reflections to help you live your later years with dignity, with peace, and with purpose. Your support means this community can grow and reach more people who need these reminders. And of course, a gentle tap on the like button lets us know this message truly connected with you. Thank you, deeply, for spending this time with me today. Remember, your energy, your peace, and your time are priceless treasures. Protect them, honor them, and use them in ways that fill your heart with joy. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.